You could give her the world, and she still wouldn't want you. Sounds harsh? Maybe. But that's the quiet truth most men are afraid to face. You bought the flowers. You texted back fast. You listened, supported, stayed loyal. You tried being the good guy. And yet, somehow, she drifted. She stopped replying the way she used to. She seemed cold, detached, like you were more of a routine than a man she longed for. Here's the truth. It's not that she didn't see your effort. It's that your effort wasn't what she truly desired. This video isn't about bashing women. It's about decoding the disconnect, understanding the psychology behind female desire, and why most men chase love in the exact way that repels it. We're going to strip away the lies. We're going to talk about attraction, not the Hollywood version, but the raw, unfiltered energy that makes her crave you when you're not even in the room. You'll learn why giving too much weakens you, why silence seduces, and why a man who knows when to walk away is the one she secretly wants back. This isn't manipulation. This is power rooted in Stoic clarity and real emotional control. Let's get into it. Number 1. Effort doesn't make her want you. Let's be honest. You were taught that if you try hard enough, if you give her your time, your attention, your loyalty, she'll see your worth. She'll love you for it, but she won't, not the way you want. Take Mike, for example. He's 42, lives in Phoenix, owns a small business, good guy, steady. He met Jenna, 38, works in healthcare at a networking event. She was sweet, smart, attractive. Mike did everything right. Took her to nice dinners, remembered the little things she said, texted her good morning and good night. Always available, always attentive. At first, she responded with warmth, but over time her replies got slower. Her voice lost its spark. Eventually, she told him, "You're amazing, but I just don't feel that connection." Mike was stunned, confused. He kept asking himself, "What did I do wrong?" But he didn't do anything wrong, he just misunderstood desire. You see, effort doesn't automatically create attraction. Women don't fall for you because of what you give. They fall for how you make them feel. And if your effort comes from a place of neediness, of trying to earn love, they feel that too, and it's not sexy. Effort isn't the problem, it's the intention behind it. When effort is a strategy to get approval, it's not leadership, it's submission. It screams, "Please see me, please want me." And deep down, that energy repels. Jenna didn't walk away from Mike because he was bad. She walked away because he was too available, too eager, too wrapped around her emotional orbit. There was no mystery, no edge. He gave before being asked. He chased before she even moved. And eventually, that killed the spark. Now here's where Stoicism comes in. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When your thoughts are rooted in insecurity, every action, even the kindest gesture, carries the scent of desperation. But when you act from strength, when your presence is calm, detached, and grounded in self-worth, you stop trying to earn her interest. And ironically, that's when it often shows up. Think about it. She doesn't want a man who's always bending. She wants a man who stands, a man who knows his value with or without her validation. That's not arrogance. That's centered masculinity. Now, I'm not saying don't care. I'm not saying be cold. What I'm saying is, stop believing that pouring more energy into someone who's unsure about you will magically flip the switch. That's not how attraction works. That's how self-respect gets drained. If you're always initiating, always checking in, always proving your worth, you're turning yourself into a service, not a man. And deep down, she doesn't want another service. She wants a presence that challenges her, that centers her, that doesn't chase because it's too grounded to beg. So if you're like Mike, wondering why all your effort led nowhere, it's time to stop focusing on how much you do and start asking why you're doing it. Desire doesn't bloom in overexposure. It grows in space, silence, and self-control. Comment below, "I've felt that." And get ready, because in the next part, we're going to talk about why words mean nothing if your energy's off. Let's keep going. Number 2. She craves presence, not words. You've told her everything. You've expressed your feelings. You've explained how much she means to you. You've said all the right things, but something's off. She listens, she nods, maybe even says thank you, but you feel her slipping. You feel her disconnecting, even when she's still in the room. Here's the part most men don't get. It's not that she didn't hear you. It's that your words didn't move her. Because what she truly craves isn't more talking, it's presence. Real, grounded, masculine presence. The kind that doesn't need to explain itself. You see, when a man is centered, he speaks without trying to convince. He acts without seeking validation. He shows up fully, and his energy says more than any paragraph ever could. That's what penetrates her emotionally. That's what draws her in, not flowery language or long speeches about how much you care. In fact, the more you try to talk her into feeling something, the more you push her away. Because real desire isn't argued for. It's felt. It's instinctual. And if your energy isn't aligned with your words, she feels the disconnect even if she can't explain it. This is where many men fall into the trap of over-explaining, over-sharing, over-apologizing, thinking vulnerability means unloading everything on her in hopes she'll understand. But to her, it often comes across as pressure. Not because she doesn't value honesty, but because what you're offering feels like weight, not grounding. She doesn't want to be convinced. She wants to be captivated. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the Stoic principle here. Less performance, more embodiment. When your words become substitutes for action, or worse, substitutes for actual presence, she tunes out. She might not even realize why, but deep down, she senses it. You're more focused on what you say than who you are. And who you are is felt. It's in your eyes when you're silent. It's in your body language when you sit across from her. It's in the way you breathe when things get tense. Women read energy, especially when it comes to attraction. You can't fake that. You can't talk around that. You either radiate stability or you don't. Stoicism isn't about shutting down emotionally. It's about not being ruled by emotion. And when a man isn't ruled by emotion, he becomes unshakable. His presence becomes a safe place, not because he says so, but because she feels it. If your words are there to fill the silence, to avoid discomfort, to fix her reactions, you're not grounded, you're reactive. And nothing dries up attraction faster than that. So stop over-explaining. Stop pleading through paragraphs. Let her feel you. Let her experience the strength of a man who doesn't need to overstate his worth. Because when your presence speaks for itself, you don't need to do the talking. Comment below, "I've seen this." And in the next part, we'll explore the trap most men don't even realize they're falling into, the curse of being too available. Let's keep going. Number 3, you're too available. That's the problem. There's a line between being reliable and being replaceable, and too many men cross it without even realizing. When you're always picking up the phone, always changing plans to fit hers, always checking in just to make sure she's okay, it might feel like love, but it doesn't feel like strength. Not to her. Because here's the truth. Availability in excess kills attraction. When something is constantly accessible, it loses its edge, not because she's shallow, not because she's ungrateful, but because desire doesn't survive in predictability. It feeds on uncertainty, on space, on the natural rhythm of coming close and pulling back. That's why showing up too much, too soon, too often backfires. This isn't a game. It's psychology. It's biology. It's what makes her feel emotionally alive in the dynamic between you. Now, let me give you something real. David is 48, a mechanical engineer in Michigan, divorced for 3 years, recently back in the dating world. He met Lauren, 45, through an online app. She was funny, grounded, into hiking and craft beers, everything he liked. From the start, David went all in. He texted good morning every day, sent photos of his lunch, his dog, his office, always trying to include her. He cancelled gym nights to take her out, answered every call, available 24/7. But within a month, Lauren started pulling away. Her texts slowed, her voice turned distant. She started rescheduling dates. Then came the line, "You're amazing, but I just need space." David was crushed, confused. He thought he was doing everything right. But what he didn't understand was this: Lauren never got the chance to miss him. She was emotionally full, too full. He filled every moment, every gap, every quiet beat that could have built anticipation. And in doing so, he removed the very thing that creates desire: tension. Stoicism teaches us to value what we control and release what we don't. Epictetus said, "He who is not master of himself will never be free." When you constantly insert yourself into her world, not out of clarity but out of fear, fear of losing her, fear of silence, fear of not being chosen, you're not showing love. You're surrendering your center. True attraction doesn't come from being ever present. It comes from being ever grounded. That means you keep your commitments. You maintain your routine. You don't drop everything the second she calls. Not because you're trying to play hard to get, but because you are hard to get. Not emotionally closed, but purpose-driven, anchored. You're a man, not a subscription service. David thought he was offering safety. What he actually offered was overexposure, and attraction doesn't bloom in full exposure. It needs contrast, darkness and light, closeness and distance. When you give her space to feel your absence, she gets to feel what being without you is like. That's when longing begins. That's when her heart leans in. Don't confuse consistency with constant access. Don't confuse attention with attraction. The man who knows how to pace himself, not rush, not cling, not overcompensate, is the man who leaves a mark without trying too hard. Comment below, "I've been there." And next, we're going to break down why comfort, yes, even emotional comfort, can silently kill the spark. Let's keep going. Number 4. Attraction D's in comfort. Comfort feels safe, but safe doesn't always mean sexy. That might sting to hear, especially if you've been told your whole life that a woman wants emotional stability, a man she can depend on, someone who'll always be there. And sure, she does want that, eventually, but not at the expense of attraction, not at the cost of polarity. In the early stages, when emotions are still forming, attraction isn't built through routine and comfort. It's built through contrast, through tension, through uncertainty. Comfort, when given too soon or in excess, suffocates the spark. When a relationship feels too settled, before it's even had a chance to breathe, the energy shifts. The chase ends before it even begins. And what could have been an exciting dynamic turns into something soft, familiar, and uninspiring. You think you're showing commitment. What she feels is emotional saturation. You think you're giving her peace. What she feels is predictability. And while peace is beautiful, it only holds value when it follows desire, not when it replaces it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being too emotionally available too early can kill curiosity. And when curiosity dies, so does pursuit. In Stoicism, comfort is never the goal. Strength is. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You don't love yourself enough, or you'd love your nature too, and what it demands of you." What does your nature demand as a man? It demands that you remain grounded in your mission, even in the face of connection. That you maintain your individuality, even when someone starts to feel close. That you don't confuse warmth with complacency. You're not supposed to make her feel like she's already won the prize before she's even played the game. That's not how healthy attraction works. It's not about being cold. It's not about withholding love. It's about pacing it, revealing yourself gradually, letting the space between you mean something. Men who rush into comfort usually do it out of fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of missing a chance. But that fear-driven comfort creates pressure, and pressure kills desire. She starts feeling responsible for your happiness. She feels your emotional dependence. And what started as potential chemistry now feels like emotional weight. A Stoic man doesn't rush into comfort. He doesn't seek validation through closeness. He allows connection to unfold naturally, without forcing it to fit a timeline. He's not desperate for emotional safety, because his safety comes from within. Comfort becomes valuable when it's earned, not when it's handed out like candy on the first date. And if you skip straight to it, you skip the very ingredients that build intensity, longing, and mutual pull. Think of attraction like fire. You don't throw a wet blanket over it in the first 5 minutes. You let it breathe. You feed it slowly. You give it space to grow. That's how it becomes heat, not routine. If you're wondering why things started out great and then fizzled, ask yourself, did I get too comfortable too fast? Did I try to lock in connection before it even had a chance to breathe? Attraction isn't built in comfort. It's built in curiosity, in challenge, in space. And if you want to keep her attention, you have to resist the urge to collapse into comfort too early. Comment below. I've seen this. In the next part, we'll tackle something deeper, how your need to prove you're good enough might be the very thing pushing her away. Let's keep going. Number 5. Stop proving you're good enough. When a man starts trying to prove he's good enough, he's already lost ground. Not because he isn't worthy, but because the moment he needs to convince her, he's acting from lack, not power. You don't attract by performing, you attract by being. But most men don't believe that. Most men, especially those who've been through rejection or heartbreak, carry around a quiet desperation like they need to be chosen to feel complete. So they try harder, they compliment more, they overgive, they wait for validation like a starving man waits for food. And the irony? The more you try to prove you're enough, the more you signal that maybe you're not. Because energy doesn't lie. That's what happened to Greg. He's 46, works in finance, lives in Denver. He met Elena, 42, at a wine tasting. Smart, elegant, driven. The chemistry was there early on, and Greg thought, I better not mess this up. So he did what most men do. When they're afraid of losing something valuable, he started proving. He complimented her constantly, bought her surprise gifts, went out of his way to drive across town just to bring her coffee. He agreed with everything she said, even when he didn't. He thought he was building connection. But what he was actually doing was erasing himself. Piece by piece, gesture by gesture. Elena didn't fall for Greg because of how much he gave. She started losing interest because he stopped being a man with a center. He became a mirror, reflecting what he thought she wanted to see. He wasn't building attraction. He was negotiating approval. And that's not attractive. The moment you feel the need to prove, you're admitting, I don't believe I'm enough as I am. And whether she realizes it consciously or not, that energy changes how she sees you. Women don't fall in love with the effort, they fall for the man behind it. And if that man is hiding behind a performance, the connection isn't real. It's transactional. Stoicism teaches us to hold the line internally, to build value from within. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, you have to stop performing. Stop chasing applause. Be willing to stand firm in who you are, even if it means not being liked right away. The right woman doesn't need convincing. She recognizes presence. She feels your grounded energy. She sees that you're rooted in purpose, not trying to win her like a prize. Greg thought his gestures would win Elena's heart. But what she needed was a man who didn't need to be picked to feel like a man. Because that's what confidence is. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's key, certain, not trying. When a man knows he's enough, he doesn't prove, he chooses. He chooses who enters his world, who gets access to his time, his space, his energy. And that subtle shift from proving to choosing is where real attraction lives. So if you've been chasing, over-explaining, bending over backwards to be enough, pause. Ask yourself, what part of me doesn't believe I already am? Because until you fix that, no amount of flowers, texts, or dinners will do it for you. Comment below, "I've felt that." Next, we're going to explore how emotional distance doesn't destroy connection, it often creates it. Let's keep going. Number 6. Desire grows in emotional distance. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? If you care about someone, shouldn't you stay close? Shouldn't you be emotionally available, expressive, open? But here's the reality most men miss. Emotional distance doesn't destroy desire, it creates it. Not because women want cold, unavailable men, but because desire needs room to breathe. Without space, there's no tension. Without tension, there's no pull. And without pull, you're just emotionally fused, too fast, too soon. When you make yourself emotionally open and present all the time, you leave nothing to the imagination. No mystery, no wondering, no polarity. You become emotionally predictable, and while that may sound like stability, it often feels like emotional overexposure. That's when attraction starts to fade, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing too much. Desire doesn't come from always being emotionally close. It comes from fluctuation, the rise and fall of presence, the contrast between moments of intimacy and moments of distance. It's in that space where she can miss you, think about you, question what you're feeling, that real desire starts to spark. Now, this doesn't mean pulling away to punish. That's manipulation. This is something else. It's about not flooding the connection with emotion before it's earned. It's about holding your ground, allowing the natural rhythm of intimacy to unfold rather than forcing closeness as proof of interest. The more you try to fill every emotional gap, the more she senses your insecurity, your need to lock things down. And that kills the energy she's wired to respond to. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Apply that to connection. When you're constantly craving emotional closeness, needing reassurance, needing attention, you're signaling lack, not strength. Stoicism teaches restraint, not detachment. It teaches centeredness, not avoidance. A man grounded in Stoicism knows how to sit in emotional silence. He knows how to be unavailable for a while, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of his independence. He doesn't panic when a message isn't returned in 5 minutes. He doesn't flood someone with emotion to keep them interested. He knows that space is part of the chemistry. It's part of the fire. The waiting, the wondering, the not knowing, all of it creates emotional movement. Desire isn't born in conversations. It's born in absence. In those silent gaps where she starts to miss your energy, replay your words, question what you're thinking. That's when she becomes emotionally invested, not just entertained or comforted. Too many men overshare, overtext, overfeel, hoping it will make them more lovable. It doesn't. It makes them overbearing. And slowly, without even realizing it, she pulls away, not because you were too cold, but because you were too emotionally present, too fast. She needs room to feel, room to lean in. And you rob her of that when you're always right there, emotionally naked and waiting. Let her come to you. Let her wonder. Let the space do its work. It's not about ghosting. It's not about detachment. It's about giving her the opportunity to feel the desire herself without being fed it 24/7. That's how attraction grows in adults. That's how women fall, not by being smothered with emotion, but by being drawn into the unknown. Comment below, "I've seen this." Next, we'll look at a subtle dynamic most men never see coming: the difference between being needed and being wanted. Let's keep going. Number 7. Being needed is not being wanted. There's a subtle trap that many good men fall into. They think that if a woman needs them, she'll want to stay, that if they become her emotional rock, her support system, her problem solver, that desire will follow, that love will deepen. But need and want are two very different things. Need is about survival. Want is about desire. And when you confuse the two, you start building a relationship on obligation instead of attraction. Here's the danger. When you make yourself indispensable, always available, always fixing, always supporting, you become useful. But being useful isn't the same as being irresistible. You might be the guy she depends on, but that doesn't mean you're the man she dreams about. This dynamic played out for Todd, 55, an Army veteran living in North Carolina. After his divorce, he met Kelly, 49, a single mom juggling a full-time job and 2 teenagers. From the start, Todd stepped in. He helped her with errands, fixed her broken sink, gave rides to her kids, helped with bills when things got tight. And Kelly appreciated it. She said thank you. She told her friends how good of a man Todd was. But the intimacy? It never grew. The spark never came back after the first few dates. Todd found himself in a relationship where he was needed, but never fully wanted. He thought, if I just keep showing up, maybe her heart will catch up. But all it did was reinforce a dynamic where he became more like a support figure than a partner, like emotional infrastructure instead of a man. Being needed feels like love at first. It feeds your ego, it gives you purpose, but over time, it drains your polarity. Because real desire doesn't come from dependence, it comes from tension, from emotional contrast, from not being someone's constant solution. A Stoic man understands this. He gives, but he doesn't overextend. He supports, but he doesn't sacrifice his masculinity to be useful. He helps, but not to earn love, because he knows love given through need is fragile. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Apply that here. The best way to avoid falling into the nice guy gets used trap is to stop behaving like someone who confuses helpfulness with attraction. Your value isn't in being needed. Your power is in being chosen, even when you offer nothing but your presence. Kelly didn't use Todd, but she settled into comfort with him. She leaned on him when life was hard. And while Todd mistook that for emotional closeness, what it really did was bury any chance at real romantic energy. Women want to feel your strength, your independence, your emotional spine, not just your kindness. Being wanted means she's drawn to your presence, not just what you provide. It means she chooses you not because she needs help, but because your presence moves her. That's the difference. If you're stuck in a dynamic where you're always doing, fixing, showing up, but you're not being truly seen, felt, or desired, it's time to stop. Stop giving out of fear. Stop thinking usefulness is the path to her heart. It's not. Comment below, I've been there. Up next, we're going deeper into that space between you, the space where emotional gravity builds. Because sometimes, pulling back is the most powerful move you can make. Let's keep going. Number 8. She tests strength, not sweetness. If you've ever been confused by a woman's shift in behavior when she pulls away, gets cold, challenges you emotionally, it's not always because something's wrong. It might just be a test. Not a test of your kindness, not of how many sweet words you can say, but a test of your center, your strength, your frame. This is where most men get it wrong. They think if they just double down on being nice, stay agreeable, stay emotionally open, stay soft, things will smooth out. She'll come back. She'll feel safe again. But the truth is, safety for her isn't found in how soft you are. It's found in how solid you are. When she tests you, she's not looking for flowers. She's watching to see if you fold, if you lose your cool, if you get rattled. She's not trying to be cruel. She's trying to feel where your boundaries are, where your center lives. She's asking, Can this man hold himself together when I can't? And if the answer is no, if you start pleading, explaining, collapsing into emotional panic, she may say she still cares, but she'll stop feeling drawn to you. Because emotional strength isn't loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg. It holds. It breathes. It waits. In Stoicism, this principle is everything. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Apply that here. When she pushes, it's not always rejection. Sometimes it's adversity. And adversity is where your presence gets tested, not your charm. A woman doesn't want a man who's easily thrown. She wants to feel your weight in the room, not physically but emotionally, psychologically. She wants to sense that if the world shakes, you won't flinch. That doesn't mean being emotionally shut down. Stoicism isn't about numbing out. It's about staying rooted when emotion floods the room. It's about choosing response over reaction. That's what passes her test, even when she doesn't realize she's giving it. You don't have to prove your strength with volume. In fact, the more you try to show her how composed you are, the less she'll believe it. Real strength is silent. It's in the way you don't chase after every emotional shift. It's in the way you don't explain yourself just to relieve tension. It's in how you sit with her pain or her coldness without absorbing it. The sweetness you give her only has value when it rests on the foundation of strength. If there's no backbone behind it, it feels hollow, performative, weak, and she will test that. Especially when she's unsure of you. Especially when she's getting close. Because the closer a woman gets, the more her unconscious starts looking for proof. Can he carry both of us emotionally when I can't carry myself? If you meet that test with fear or insecurity, she'll feel it and she'll lose interest. But if you meet it with calm, with silence, with steady energy, she'll feel that too. And that's when attraction deepens. That's when she starts to trust you in a way that no words could create. So don't try to pass her tests by being sweeter. Pass them by being still. Comment below, "I've seen this." In the next part, we'll break down how pulling back at the right moment isn't rejection, it's power. And it's often the very thing that brings her closer. Let's keep going. Number 9. Mystery turns her on, not predictability. You might think that being clear, transparent, and emotionally open at all times is what keeps her interested. That the more she knows about you, the safer she'll feel. The more consistent you are, the more she'll fall. That sharing everything, your thoughts, your feelings, your routines, is the key to attraction. It's not. Because women aren't turned on by emotional transparency alone. They're turned on by mystery, by what they can't quite name, by the subtle distance that keeps them leaning in, guessing, wanting to understand more. Predictability is comforting, sure, but it's also boring. And boredom is the silent killer of desire. When a man becomes too obvious, too consistent, too emotionally on call, he starts feeling more like background noise than a spark. She doesn't wonder what you're thinking because you already told her. She doesn't wonder what you're doing because you already updated her. There's no space left for imagination. And that space, that mental and emotional space, is exactly where sexual energy grows. This became painfully clear for Marcus, 52, a high school principal in Arizona. He'd been seeing Jenna, 47, for a couple of months. Everything was going well, or so he thought. He made time for her, updated her on his schedule, texted her throughout the day, even sent voice notes before bed just to stay connected. But instead of feeling closer, Jenna grew more distant. Her energy dropped. She stopped initiating. The conversations got shorter. When Marcus asked her what was wrong, she just said, "You're a great guy. I just don't feel it anymore." He was crushed, confused. He did everything right. Wasn't that what women wanted? What Marcus didn't realize was that he left her with nothing to chase, nothing to wonder about. He was too accessible, too predictable. Every mystery was revealed, every question answered before it was even asked. And without mystery, there was no tension. Without tension, there was no spark. Stoic philosophy speaks directly to this energy of presence and restraint. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are anxious, chasing, seeking validation, your energy reflects that. And women feel it deeply. Even if they can't explain why it turns them off, they'll pull away from a man who gives too much, too soon, too freely. Mystery doesn't mean being manipulative. It means being rooted. It means living your life with enough purpose that you don't need to reveal yourself completely to feel valuable. When you're mysterious, you're not hiding. You're just not broadcasting. You're not oversharing every detail of your day. You're not updating her with every emotional fluctuation. You're letting her feel her way into knowing you, not spoon-feeding her access. Jenna didn't lose interest in Marcus because he was a bad guy. She lost interest because she saw all of him too soon, and there was nothing left to unfold. No next layer, no chase, no emotional polarity. If you want to keep her drawn to you, don't make yourself a solved puzzle. Let her reach for you. Let her wonder. Let her guess sometimes. Not because you're playing games, but because you're too full of life, too anchored in purpose, to always be available for decoding. Comment below. I've seen this. Next, we're wrapping it all together. Because everything we've covered, it means nothing if you don't understand what kind of man she truly wants. Let's finish strong. Number 10. She wants a man who can walk away. This is the part most men refuse to accept. They think the key to love is holding on tighter, being more loyal, more invested, more available. But women don't fall for the man who clings. They fall for the man who could leave but chooses not to. Not because he's cold, not because he's emotionally unavailable, but because he doesn't need her. His self-worth isn't hanging on her response. His masculinity isn't defined by her approval. That's the difference between attraction and attachment. A woman doesn't want a man whose entire emotional life revolves around her. That's pressure, not passion. What she craves is a man who is whole with or without her, who brings value, energy, depth into the room, but doesn't beg to stay in it. The man who can walk away is dangerous not because he threatens her, but because he's free. He's not emotionally caged by fear. He doesn't chase out of insecurity. He doesn't lose himself in romance. And that freedom, that calm detachment, it's magnetic. She feels it. In his eyes, in his pace, in the way he doesn't flinch when she pulls away or tests him or goes silent. He doesn't collapse. He doesn't argue. He doesn't need to be right, because his world doesn't shrink without her. That's the kind of man she respects. That's the kind of man she desires, not because he's playing games, but because he plays by his own rules. Stoicism was never about pushing people away. It was about standing tall no matter who stays or goes. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And nothing lies further outside your control than how someone feels about you in a given moment. You can't force her to choose you. You can't beg her to stay. But you can choose to stay grounded. You can choose to stay in motion. You can choose to live a life so full, so purposeful, so self-defined, that even when she leaves, you remain." That's the power she feels. It's not arrogance, it's not distance, it's emotional sovereignty. It's what separates the man who performs for love from the man who simply is love. And here's the twist: when she knows you can walk away, she leans in. Because suddenly, your presence becomes a choice, not a plea. Your interest becomes powerful, not desperate. Your attention becomes a gift, not a trade. She sees that you won't tolerate disrespect, that you don't chase validation, that you can let go not as revenge, but as a reflection of your worth. This isn't about walking away to manipulate. It's about knowing when to stop giving to someone who doesn't value what you bring, It's about knowing you don't beg for space in any woman's life. You offer presence. You offer power. And if that's not enough, you move on, because you can. And it's that quiet confidence, that willingness to walk without anger, that sends the clearest signal of all. I'm whole. I'm not afraid to lose you. I want you, but I don't need you. And that is the man she can't stop thinking about. And there you have it. We've walked through 10 truths that most men never hear. But all of us need to understand, not just to attract women, but to become men who are calm, grounded, unshakable. We talked about how effort alone doesn't make her want you, how emotional distance actually fuels desire, how mystery, presence, and strength speak louder than sweet words ever could. And most importantly, we ended with this. She doesn't want a man who's just nice, or available, or agreeable. She wants a man who knows his worth and can walk away if he has to. That kind of man doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He leads. With purpose, with stillness, with quiet confidence. So if this spoke to you, if something in you shifted today, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.